The kitchen entrance is that way, my stepmother Margaret pointed without looking up from her clipboard. Staff dinner is at 5. I adjusted my understated black dress, hand-tailored in Paris, worth more than her annual country club dues. Actually, I'm here as a guest. Oh, darling, she laughed, finally looking up. The Harrison Foundation Winter Ball is invitation only. For donors. Through the ballroom's grand doors, I could see the city's elite arriving, each trying to outshine the others with their displays of wealth. None of them knowing about the wire transfer I'd authorized that morning. I have a ticket, I said quietly. A ticket. My stepsister Bethany appeared, dripping in diamonds that suddenly looked costume quality compared to the single perfect stone hidden at my throat. Did you win some kind of contest? Something like that, I smiled, thinking of my offshore accounts and the foundation's imminent announcement. Margaret checked her guest list with exaggerated care. I don't see your name, dear. Though we do need extra help in the kitchen. The caviar station is understaffed. I checked my watch, Swiss-made, discreet, worth more than their cars combined. The announcement would come at 8. The seating chart? I asked innocently. Oh, honey, Bethany smirked. Those tables are for actual donors. People who matter. My phone buzzed, confirmation that the transfer had cleared. $100 million, anonymously donated. For now. I'm sure we can find you a spot in the kitchen, Margaret offered with false generosity. Near the other help. I caught a glimpse of my father through the crowd, still handsome in his tuxedo, still oblivious to how his new wife had systematically pushed me to the margins of his life after Mom died. Your father worked so hard to build this foundation, Margaret reminded me, her voice dripping honey-coated venom. We can't have anything embarrassing tonight. The foundation. Dad's pride and joy, built from a small family charity into a major philanthropic force. The same foundation now teetering on the edge of financial collapse. A fact only the board and I knew. I understand, I said, thinking of the emergency board meeting last week. The desperate need for a major donor. The quiet empire I'd built while they weren't looking. The kitchen staff has their own table, Bethany added, adjusting her tiara, cubic zirconia, though she told everyone it was family heritage. You can sit with Rosa. She's been here forever, just like you. Rosa, who'd practically raced me after Mom died. Who'd watched Margaret sweep in and gradually convinced Dad that his daughter was somehow less perfect. I smiled, touching the USB drive in my clutch containing proof of Margaret's creative accounting. I'm sure Rosa and I will have lots to catch up on. Just stay out of sight during the donor announcement, Margaret warned. We have someone very special making a transformative gift. If she only knew. The kitchen table, I agreed, watching the foundation's director approach with panic in his eyes. He'd been calling me all day, desperate to confirm the anonymous transfer. Margaret, he called. The major donor's representative is here. Coming. He turned back to me. Kitchen. No. And do try not to embarrass your father. I slipped away to the staff table, settling between Rosa and Carlos, the bartender who'd watched me grow up. Who'd seen everything. Nina, Rosa whispered, squeezing my hand. You look like your mother tonight. Just wait, I told her softly, watching Margaret flutter around the wealthy guests. Tonight's going to be interesting. My phone buzzed again. The foundation's legal team confirming receipt of both the donation and my terms. In 2 hours, everything would change. Did you eat? Rosa asked in Spanish, sliding me a plate of appetizers meant for the donor tables. I'm saving my appetite, I replied, watching Bethany parade around with her fake tiara and real attitude. Tonight's feast is going to be particularly satisfying. Through the kitchen doors I could hear the orchestra starting up. The guests finding their tables. Margaret's voice carrying as she bragged about her stewardship of Dad's legacy. The legacy she'd nearly bankrupted. The one I just saved with conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, the director's voice boomed through the speakers. If you'll please take your seats. I checked my watch one final time. In exactly 90 minutes, they'd announced the anonymous donor who'd saved the Harrison Foundation. In 91 minutes, I'd stand up from my kitchen table and introduce myself. From my seat in the kitchen corner, I watched the evening unfold like a perfectly choreographed dance. Margaret fluttered from table to table, dropping hints about the transformative announcement to come. Bethany collected compliments on her fake tiara like they were precious gems themselves. "More champagne for the donor tables," Margaret commanded, sweeping past without a glance. "And someone needs to fix the lighting. It's not flattering to the important guests." I sipped water from my staff paper cup, thinking of the vintage Dom Perignon I'd arranged to be served during the announcement. "A little extra touch just for tonight." "Your father keeps looking this way," Rosa murmured in Spanish. "I think he wants to come over." Indeed, Dad had glanced toward the kitchen doors several times, his expression troubled. But each time Margaret's perfectly manicured hand would touch his arm, steering him back to the donors. "He's probably worried about the announcement," I replied, watching the foundation's director pace nervously near the podium. He'd been checking his phone compulsively all evening, waiting for final confirmation from the mysterious donors' lawyers. "My lawyers. Did you hear?" Carlos whispered, refreshing my water. "They say it's the biggest donation in the foundation's history. Margaret's been telling everyone she orchestrated it personally." I smiled, remembering Margaret's frantic board meeting presentation last month. The foundation was bleeding money, but she'd insisted everything was fine. Just some creative accounting. The USB drive in my clutch contained proof of exactly how creative that accounting had been. "Bethany's already spending the money," Rosa noted as my stepsister's voice carried across the room. "She's telling everyone about the new foundation headquarters she's designing, with her office on the top floor." "Interesting plans," I murmured, thinking of the conditions attached to my donation. The ones that would be revealed in precisely 43 minutes. The orchestra played softly as dinner was served. Wagyu beef and truffle risotto for the donor tables, chicken and rice for the staff. I declined both, my appetite focused on the feast to come. "She's not even good at hiding it anymore," Carlos said, nodding toward Margaret as she regaled her table with tales of her financial genius. "Last week she told me I should be grateful to even work here, given my background." "Did she?" I asked quietly, making a mental note. The employment terms would need reviewing. "All of them." My phone buzzed. A message from the foundation's legal team. "Final documents executed. Announcement proceeds as planned." Through the crowd I caught Dad's eye again. This time he started to stand, only to be interrupted by Margaret announcing the evening's entertainment. "Before our special announcement," she trilled, "Bethany has prepared a small violin performance." I watched my stepsister lift her instrument, a genuine Stradivarius that had belonged to my mother. Margaret had relocated it to Bethany's possession shortly after the wedding. "That violin," Rosa whispered, her eyes fierce. "Your mother wanted you to have it." "I know," I said softly, touching the USB drive again. "Everything in its time." Bethany played adequately, her technique as artificial as her tiara. The polite applause was interrupted by the foundation director rushing to the podium, his face flushed with excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "we're almost ready for tonight's special revelation. Would everyone please refill their glasses?" Margaret practically floated to the head table, positioning herself prominently beside my father. "As chair of the foundation's board," she began, though she'd only appointed herself last year, "I am thrilled to share." "Pardon me," the director interrupted, accepting a note from his assistant. "But the donor's representative has some specific instructions for the announcement." Margaret's perfect smile faltered slightly. "I'm sure they'd want the board chair too." "Actually," the director continued, checking his phone, "they've been quite clear about the protocol." I stood quietly, smoothing my dress. 22 minutes until showtime. "But I've arranged everything," Margaret protested. "The press release already will need to be revised," the director said firmly, "along with several other foundation policies according to the terms." Bethany clutched her stolen violin. "Mom, what's happening?" "Just a small protocol issue," Margaret announced to the now murmuring crowd. "Nothing to." The lights dimmed slightly and servers began circulating with fresh champagne. "My champagne. Ladies and gentlemen," the director's voice boomed through the speakers. "If you'll all take your seats, we're ready to begin the evening's main event." I caught Rosa's knowing smile as I checked my appearance one final time. The single perfect diamond at my throat. The USB drive in my clutch. The wire transfer confirmation on my phone. This is a historic moment for the Harrison Foundation. the director continued. Tonight we announce the largest single donation in our history. A transformative gift, the director announced, of $100 million. The ballroom erupted in gasps and applause. Margaret's face glowed with triumphant satisfaction. For exactly 3 more seconds. An anonymous donation, he continued, with specific terms for the foundation's future governance. Margaret's smile flickered. Which I, as board chair, will be happy to. The donor, the director spoke over her, has requested to reveal themselves personally. I stood smoothly from the kitchen table, every eye in the room tracking the movement. Rosa squeezed my hand one final time as I stepped into the light. "Hello, Father," I said clearly, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent ballroom. I believe the foundation was expecting me. The champagne flute slipped from Margaret's fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Bethany's mouth hung open, her fake tiara slightly askew. "Alexandra." Dad's voice cracked. "What are you?" "The terms are quite straightforward," I continued, accepting the microphone. "Complete financial transparency, new board elections, and immediate review of all accounting decisions made in the last 5 years." Margaret's face went from scarlet to ash. "You can't." "Can't what?" I asked pleasantly, withdrawing the USB drive. "Can't afford a ticket to the ball? Can't understand complex financial transactions? Can't prove systematic misappropriation of foundation funds?" The director stepped forward, his expression grim. "The legal team has already reviewed the documentation Ms. Harrison provided. It's extensive." "That's impossible," Bethany sputtered. "She works in some startup or something." "Actually," I smiled, "I sold my tech company last year. For rather more than your mother's creative accounting could hide." Dad stood, realization dawning. "The Silicon Valley deal. That was your daughter," I cut in. "The one you ignored. The one you said didn't understand real business." Margaret snapped. "This is ridiculous. The board won't." "The board," I said, holding up a drive, "will care about these transfers. To private accounts." Lawyers moved in. Security blocked the exits. "As principal donor," I continued, "I have concerns about management. Starting with this." I turned to Bethany. "Mother's violin, please." She clutched it. "But Mom said." "She said many things," I replied. "All documented. With the original bequest." Dad's face shifted from shock to dread. "Margaret, what did you—" "Darling," she began, but the lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. I faced the crowd. "The kitchen staff will receive raises and back pay. Rosa, head of outreach. Carlos, director of hospitality. Full benefits." Their smiles lit the room. Margaret's face fell. "You can't just," she started. "Actually," the director cut in, "she can. You signed the donor agreement this morning." I raised my glass. "To new leadership. And remembering worth isn't measured by dinner seats." Security stood behind Margaret. Dad trembled over the documents. "One last thing." I unclasped my diamond necklace. Light caught the stone. "This was Mother's too. Another item that belongs with me." Margaret's hand flew to her neck, where the empty setting once was. I smiled. "That concludes tonight's announcement. Tomorrow's emergency board meeting at 9, yes." Silence. Then Rosa clapped. Carlos joined. Soon the whole staff, donors, even the orchestra. "Alexandra," Dad called, voice breaking. "Wait." I paused. "Don't worry, Father. Margaret can explain. She should call her lawyer first." Bethany clutched the violin, tears streaking. "But where will we sit?" I gestured to the kitchen table where Rosa and Carlos raised their cups. "The kitchen has excellent seats," I said. "But you might have to earn them."